Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through. Just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind.
Many of us have heard Robert Frost's famous quote, "Good fences make good neighbors." But sometimes a fence may not offer enough protection from what or who lurks on the other side. Has anyone on the other side of the fence ever been arrested for a violent crime or suffered undiagnosed mental illness? These are not the questions we ask about our neighbors in suburban America, unless one day, unexpectedly, on the evening news, we hear a story about a horrific series of events in our quiet, picturesque town. Then we have questions. Then we wonder what causes seemingly ordinary people to lash out violently. Is it because of a failure of the criminal justice system or ineffective crime prevention strategies? Or is it due to mental health concerns? We ask, who is at fault and what can we learn from this tragic set of circumstances? But occasionally, even after many facts have been provided, the story remains perplexing and unfathomable. Today's story takes us to Acworth, Georgia, an upscale suburb of Atlanta with an estimated population of close to 23,000, according to the most recent census data. Among many other things, Acworth is known for its excellent schools, intriguing war history, and proximity to Lake Allatoona and Lake Acworth. Its neighbor, the city of Kennesaw, famously requires the head of every household to own a gun. However, this is not a requirement in Acworth, although at one time you did have to own a rake. In the summer of 2019, 23-year-old Philip Brent and his fiancée, 23-year-old Eliza Wells, moved into a red brick home on Verbena Drive in Acworth, owned by Brent's grandfather. All was going well until, in December, the couple received a strange item in the mail. It was a folded piece of computer paper. When they opened it, there was an explicit adult image with an incoherent message. Brent just tossed it away, thinking it was probably a kid's prank. Then, in May 2020, after a third such prank in which he received a graphic picture of a woman in a tiara along with a toy tiara, he felt compelled to contact the police. Officers told him there was not much they could do and suggested the couple install security cameras for safety purposes. 2 months later, in July 2020, Brent found himself scrolling through hours of surveillance footage after he saw an apple juice bottle with a cigarette in it against his garage door. It was apparent that someone had been on his property, and he wanted to know who it was. While reviewing the video, Brent saw footage of his neighbor, Austin Lanz, putting an item into his mailbox late at night and placing the apple juice bottle against his garage door. He was not surprised, as he had long suspected Austin. Brent stated, "We had to drive by his house often. Every time we passed by, he was outside smoking a cigarette or would be standing there and would give us the most creepiest, unsettling looks and wave at us." Armed with footage, they once again notified the police. Police spoke with Austin's parents, who said they were disturbed and would ensure that Austin gets therapy. They agreed to arrange a brief meeting with their neighbors for an apology. The police wanted Austin to apologize and asked him if he had ever met Miss Wells. Austin said he had not. Police then asked, "Well, why would you have any reason to start doing these things?" Austin replied, "Well, I can see her through her bathroom window." After closing their bathroom blinds, Brent and Wells visited the Cobb County Magistrate Court the following week to seek a restraining order. However, they were denied one, as a court official said there was an insufficient pattern of behavior to warrant one. Eventually, Wells and Brent ended their relationship, and Wells moved out of the home in October 2020. If you're thinking, this must be when the harassment ends, well, you'd be wrong. After Wells's departure, Brent remained in the home but said he continued to receive strange items, including explicit images. Then, on April 18, 2021, Brent received an alert on his phone around midnight that someone was at his house. He pulled up a camera feed on his phone to see Austin holding a large sign and taping it to his front door. When Brent checked the door, he found a large sign had been duct taped. On one side it read, "I'm done wondering, for real." On the other side it said, "What is the point of that?" Brent called the police, who issued Austin a trespass warning and threatened to arrest him if it occurred again. Finally, Brent decided to leave the house for good and made arrangements to stay with his sister in the meantime. He had had enough of Austin Lanz, but Austin Lanz had some unfinished business. On April 24th at 4 a.m., approximately 1 week after Austin's trespass warning, Brent received another alert from his alarm company that there was an intruder inside his home. He pulled up camera footage from his phone and observed Austin searching inside his house for 13 minutes. Austin turned all the lights on and methodically searched from room to room for something or someone. He had a crowbar in his hand, which he used to enter the door. Police stated his use of the crowbar to gain entry suggested that he planned on having a further need for the object. When police responded that night, they encountered Lanz outside his home smoking a cigarette in the rain. Lanz was arrested on burglary and trespassing charges. He told police he was worried his phone was being tracked and he talked of airplanes flying over the neighborhood. He was transported to Cobb County Jail and was in the process of being booked when he suddenly and without provocation attacked two sheriff's deputies. One deputy sustained a dislocated thumb, and the other suffered a torn ACL and a bone chip. According to the warrant, it took multiple deputies to restrain him. As the deputies worked to control him, he called them gay for not fighting him individually. As a result of his assault, 6 additional charges were tacked on, including 2 counts of assault on a law enforcement officer. Bail was set at $45,000. Represented by attorney Lisa Wells, Lanz's case was transferred to Superior Court before he was formally indicted on charges related to April 24th. 2 charges, namely rioting in a penal institution and making a terroristic threat, were dismissed because of insufficient probable cause. Brent said Lanz's lawyer was seeking a bond modification permitting him to relocate to the Washington, D.C. area to help with his father's business. Sure enough, on May 12th, Lanz's bond was reduced to $30,000 by Cobb County Magistrate Judge Michael McLaughlin. Conditions included a mandatory mental health and substance abuse evaluation within 30 days of his release. Judge McLaughlin also ordered Lanz to seek employment and avoid possessing guns. Brent and Wells, who observed Lanz's bond hearing, were disappointed by the judge's decision. They claimed that Judge McLaughlin told attorneys since Lanz did not yet have a criminal record, he didn't feel Lanz should be held in custody. Despite the judge's order granting a bail reduction, it was not until July 18th that Lanz was released from jail. The next day, a separate judge granted a bond modification that allowed Lanz to move out of state to Virginia, where Lanz planned to work for his father. At that point, the clock started to tick on his 30-day window to undergo a court-ordered mental health evaluation. 27-year-old Austin Lanz was born and raised in Georgia. He lived in a large white house in an affluent neighborhood that shared a backyard with the Brent and Wells home. The son of a construction executive and one of 2 siblings, Austin mostly worked for his father but also held other jobs. In 2012, after high school, Austin enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps. However, according to the Corps, he was administratively separated less than a month later and never earned the title Marine. He moved back in with his parents following his separation from the military. Almost 10 years later, it would be an encounter with a more esteemed soldier to whom he would forever be linked. 37-year-old Pentagon police officer George Gonzalez was born in Chicago and raised in Brooklyn, New York. He graduated from New York City's Canarsie High School and enlisted in the U.S. Army upon graduation. Gonzalez was a decorated war veteran who served in Iraq, earning the Army Commendation Medal, which is presented for sustained acts of heroism or meritorious service. In July of 2018, he relocated to Virginia to join the Pentagon Force Protection Agency, where he rose through the ranks and was promoted to a senior officer in 2020. Officer Gonzalez was a proud New York Yankees and Knicks fan and frequently posted on Facebook regarding his team's ups and downs. He was described by friends and associates as a smiling, humble man who wanted nothing more than to protect and serve his country.
Outside the Pentagon, an officer fatally stabbed, a suspect shot to death at the scene. The heart of America's defense community shaken. Flags now flying at half-staff.
This morning at about 10:37 a.m., a Pentagon police officer was attacked on the Metro bus platform.
Law enforcement officials tell CBS News suspect Austin Lanz of Georgia stabbed the officer. There was a struggle for the officer's gun, and other law enforcement opened fire.
We have one suspect down, one officer down. Pentagon, Metro.
The Pentagon Force Protection Agency confirmed the victim is one of their own. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin wrote tonight, quote, "This fallen officer died in the line of duty helping protect the tens of thousands of people who work in and who visit the Pentagon on a daily basis." It's still unclear what caused the fight and the violent mourning that ensued.
We have enough officers here to protect the medic.
But officials stressed there's no one else who took part in the attack, and the grounds of the Pentagon are safe.
The scene is secure, and most importantly, there's no continuing threat to our community.
At 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday, August 3, 2021, Austin Lanz boarded a bus headed to Washington, D.C. Upon arrival at the Pentagon Transit Center, he exited the bus and immediately ambushed, stabbed, and killed the first Pentagon police officer he came across. That officer was George Gonzalez, on patrol at a metro station just steps away from the Pentagon. According to the FBI, a struggle occurred in which Lanz acquired Gonzalez's service weapon and ultimately turned it on himself. Following the stabbing, a lockdown at the Pentagon was established, lasting for 2 hours. Gonzalez was transported to George Washington University Hospital, where he passed from his wounds as officers gathered outside to honor and salute him. The Associated Press reported that investigators were looking into Lanz's background and any history of mental illness to determine any reason he might want to target the Pentagon or police officers. Lanz's parents released a statement through their counsel claiming that Lanz had many mental health problems over the last few months of his life, including hospital stays and numerous professional mental health evaluations. Despite this, he never received an official diagnosis. According to Newsweek, neighbors reported to multiple news outlets that Austin Lanz had a troubled past and had previously attempted to harass, stalk, and break into several homes throughout the area. Finally, however, with the passing of Austin Lanz, an anguished community could begin to recover from this terrifying chapter of harassment and violence. But the peace enjoyed soon after would prove to be short-lived. On August 31, 2021, Philip Brent sold the family home on Verbena Drive to 31-year-old firefighter Justin Hicks and his wife Amber. The couple moved into their new house with their 2-year-old son in September. It is unclear whether the Hicks were aware of their neighbor's past history, but the Hicks shared a backyard fence with the Lanz family just like the couple before them. Although Austin was no longer around, 22-year-old sibling Matthew Lanz had recently returned home to live with his parents. Matthew Lanz is the younger brother of alleged murderer Austin Lanz. Although Matthew and Austin were raised together, Matthew took a different path than Austin. Whereas Austin enlisted in the military right after high school, Matthew enrolled at the University of Georgia. He attended Kennesaw Mountain High School, was an AP scholar, and played lacrosse for 4 years. He had expressed an interest in children's dentistry and did a 5-month part-time internship in a dental office in 2018. At the University of Georgia, Matthew studied cognitive psychology and psycholinguistics. His social media page indicates he attended college from 2018 to 2022, but did not state whether he completed his studies there. Matthew, like his brother, seemed to have grown up in a loving home with every conceivable resource and opportunity. He appeared to have a bright future, which makes the events you are about to hear even more astounding. On Thursday, November 18, 2021, family members showed up at the Hicks home on Verbena Drive in Ackworth around 9:30 a.m. with police for a welfare check. They had just learned that Hicks's 2-year-old didn't make it to daycare that day, and they could not reach Justin or Amber. After no response at the door, police gained entry and discovered Justin and his wife Amber dead from multiple gunshot wounds. It was later revealed they were murdered the day before. As for the 2-year-old, he was found in the home, safe and unharmed. He had been alone for at least 12 hours. The boy was placed with family members and is now doing well. On Friday, November 19th, police in Sandy Springs, Georgia, a town roughly 30 minutes from the Hicks murder site, were in the process of responding to a burglary call when a separate 911 call was made reporting an active home invasion nearby. The frightened homeowners stated the suspect was still in the house, lingering on an upstairs floor. Police were rerouted and quickly arrived at the home on Cameron Glen Drive.
Hey, sir, did you call? Hey, so is there someone actively in your house right now? Where's he at? Hey, puppy. You know this guy?
Not at all.
Okay.
He's going upstairs.
I told him not to go upstairs and he just went upstairs.
Okay. Has he got any weapons or anything like
I
that?
can't tell.
Okay.
Hey, it's the police department. Come on down. What's your name? Hello? Your house is next door. It's not this one. It is. It's next door, man. This is the residence of... What's that? No, man, not if you come out right now and talk to us.
That's what I'm afraid of, is that it will be twisted.
No, we're not going to twist anything like that, you know?
Next door, you said?
Yeah. You got close, but not close enough, you know? Well, stay right there so we can come get you. Or else come downstairs, yeah? Yeah, just walk down to this middle landing, okay? What's your name?
Consider it based on?
What? What'd you say your name was?
It's
Matthew. Hey, Matthew, come on down to the steps, okay? Are these the only steps up? Hey, come on down, man. Come on down.
During the struggle, the suspect pulled out a long knife and stabbed one officer 6 times. One stab wound was directly in the back of his neck, and it barely missed the brainstem at the base of his skull. He also sustained wounds to the side of his neck within millimeters of the jugular vein. The wounded officer was transported to Grady Memorial Hospital and was released 1 day later. According to a police report, police used tasers, pepper balls, and 2 live bullets to finally corral the suspect. The suspect was also taken to Grady Memorial Hospital for treatment of gunshot wounds. It was there that he was identified. His name was Matthew Lanz. On release, he was arrested and taken to Fulton County Jail. The next day, the Sandy Springs Police Department, working alongside the Cobb County Police Department, Announced, their investigation found that Matthew Lanz was responsible for murdering the Hicks in their home in Ackworth, Georgia on Wednesday evening. For the Cobb County crimes, Matthew Lanz was charged with 2 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, 1 count of home invasion, and 1 count of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Additionally, Matthew received a multi-count indictment on Friday, February 18, 2022. He is currently being held in custody without bond at the Fulton County Jail pending trial. To this day, motives remain unclear for the crimes committed by the Lanz brothers. While community members in Georgia wait for justice to be delivered by the court system, they remain shocked, confused, and saddened by the bizarre and terrifying chain of events. What would cause 2 young men, seemingly capable, full of potential, and afforded every resource and advantage, to lash out so violently? Who is to blame? Some believe the Lanz brothers' crimes can be chalked up to mental health issues, upbringing, the actions of violence-prone individuals, or some combination of each. While the Lanz brothers' case may be intertwined with mental illness, can mental illness really be the sole cause here? Although Austin Lanz, according to family members, may have had mental health challenges, that does not necessarily justify his actions or take away from the impact and suffering his actions caused the victims and their families. And what of Matthew Lanz? Was he afflicted with mental health issues too? Unfortunately, there's not much information available about Matthew in that sense, but the National Health Alliance states that some mental health problems tend to run in families, so if someone in the family has a disorder, there's a greater chance that another family member will develop it too. Despite this, most speculation about Matthew's motives suggests that his intention was to avenge his brother's death and complete his brother's work by killing the neighbors at Verbena Drive. Lastly, the city of Ackworth, Georgia, has seen adversity before. In fact, the town was once entirely burned to the ground by federal troops during the Civil War. It rebounded over time to become an affluent suburb. There is no question the people of Ackworth will once again rise up and recover to the extent that is possible, considering the tragedy. Currently, Ackworth remains a great place to live and raise a family. The city is still a friendly, charming, and peaceful community. In 2022, Safewise.com named Ackworth the 19th safest city in Georgia out of 537 cities. So, I leave you with this final thought. It is not good fences, but good neighbors that make good neighborhoods. So, let us be kind to our neighbors.